Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. Welcome to Cut and Uncut with Daphne and Bonnie Violet. My name is Daphne and I am Cut.
And I'm Bonnie Violet, and I'm Uncut. Here we talk about all things trans.
And then some.
In this episode, we will be reviewing REN Chapter 5 and Falling in Reversed Last Resort, as well as Z Machine's Dangerous.
Ooh. We'd like to give a huge shout out and a huge thank you to our Patreon members, Skylar Bean, who was in our trade tier, and our free members, Jacob Blankenship, Elizabeth, Danielle Loyal, Bertha D, Kiri Birdsley, and Eclectic Fandom. Hugs and kisses to everybody.
Yes, and be sure to watch us on YouTube, join us on Patreon, follow us on the TikTok, or get that merch.
I got mine.
I decided to use a straw.
Girl, today I am drinking hibiscus, what do you call it? Hibiscus cold brew.
Oh, wow. Cold brew. So is that a tea or is it a coffee?
It's my ghetto hibiscus tea that I froze. I put it in the refrigerator. So I made it into like a cold tea.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I love hibiscus tea, which is Jamaica juice. And
Mm-hmm.
Mexican culture, they drink the Jamaica, and it's one of my favorite flavors, and I crave them sometimes. So I thought I'd make that. So how was everybody in your weekend, Bonnie Violet? What'd you do fun?
Yeah.
We'll talk after.
No, I had a rough weekend, but yeah, my mom got some bad health stuff again, and so it just kind of like spun me out a little bit emotionally. But sometimes you just have to do that, you know. You have to get a little sad and work through that stuff. And I did a photo shoot last night though for the show that I'm doing, which was kind of fun.
Oh,
so yeah.
How was San Francisco Pride?
I'm not there yet. It's this week, girl.
Oh, it's this week. I'm always jumping the gun, girl.
I know you always jumping the gun. How was your weekend?
It was good. I worked this weekend, so I work the weekend once a month. So it was my weekend to work, but I want to, and today I was off, so I'm trying my culinary skills. I'm making some sofrito for this dish called mole drumsticks and Spanish rice. So it's a lot of prep work for it. So
sounds good though.
Yeah.
And all right, well, should we get right in there?
All right, we're starting with REN.
Yeah, and I know we're starting a little bit late. Sorry about that, folks. Always tech stuff or something. So yeah, so we're on REN Chapter 5. And if I'm trying to remember, did they give us any ideas of what this week is about?
Who? Eclectic Fandom and William are here. Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all. So glad you could make it.
You got your short coffee break again, William. Well, we always appreciate you popping in to say.
All right. I don't remember what they said Chapter 5 was on this week. Do you?
No. Guess we'll both be in full reaction.
I was trying to remember, but hopefully it's on the upswing.
Right. I could use a little upbeat today.
Yeah, me too. All right, here we go.
I tried to cling on to music in whatever ways I could during the time I was sick. During my time in Brighton, whenever my energy would allow it, I'd get myself out onto the streets and I'd go busking, about once every 3 weeks or so. It was my second year in Brighton, and I remember one evening heading home with my guitar and my busking amp after a couple of hours of playing on the street. I remember hearing this amazing ethereal voice while heading through the lanes, and I saw that it was coming from this 16-year-old kid. I've always had a deep admiration and feeling of camaraderie for buskers. There's something about the willingness to be able to bare your soul to a street full of strangers that really moves me. I noticed that the kid didn't have an amp. He was singing totally a cappella, but you'd only hear him if you were within a few meters of him. I knew from years on the street and singing a cappella than myself that an amp can change everything. I had this compulsion to offer him mine. I approached him and I told him that if he plugged in and sang while I played guitar, the whole street would stop in its tracks. And I was right. His voice soared across the street and people started stopping. Not long after, we had the whole street's attention. Something quite magic was happening. This was the first day that I met Sam Tompkins, someone who would be integral to my whole life changing later on. He had a friend with him.
Do you remember Sam? The one, yeah. All right, we'll go back. Sorry, I'm excited.
the first day that I met Sam Tompkins, someone who would be integral to my whole life changing later on. He had a friend with him, this guy called Connor Honeysett, who would later go on to be my manager. For now, they'd just be a couple of teenagers that I'd have to help out on my way home. It's funny how life works like that. I kept up to date with what Sam was doing on social media. There was a part of me that felt like his successes allowed me to live vicariously through someone else who lived an alternate reality where I never got sick. He was getting videos on SBTV, writing and featuring with some amazing artists, and there were quite a lot of similarities in our writing styles, and all at such a young age. I wasn't really able to do any of that stuff at the time. I was mostly bedbound with the exception of the odd day that I'd be able to go busking. It could have been very easy for that feeling to turn into jealousy, but it never did. I felt truly proud of him. Years later, we go on to write a song together called Blind Eyed, which would transform the trajectory of my whole career. During this time, I was still desperately jumping from one treatment to another treatment. And now that my diet had become more limited, I was trying new diets with no luck. As the options in the alternative health world started to dwindle, I started searching for answers in the divine. In the former years, I had moments where I found myself sitting in churches, talking in tears to whoever might be listening, or experimenting with energetic healing modalities like Reiki. With time, my searching started taking even more unusual turns. I started looking to things like exorcists. Once you exhaust all rational explanations and treatments, the irrational suddenly starts looking more palatable. I had a skeptic's mind, but I had nothing to lose because there were no other good options. My friend Momoko's mother was from Japan. She aligned herself with a sect of Buddhism called the Nichiren Daishonin. They would chant a repeated phrase over and over again while holding prayer beads. The chant would go, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, over and over again. Its intention was to align you with your innate Buddhahood.
You have experience with that, I take it?
I did. When I lived in California, I practiced a little bit of Buddhism, and we would pray to the Gohanzen and chant with prayer beads.
Yeah, it sounds like somebody from Idaho would say, yeah, that sounds like something they do in California.
Well, the woman whose house we went to, Bonnie, is a funny story. She had a mansion, and the walls were literally carved out of oak.
Oh, wow.
And just beautiful pieces. And she's like, oh, yes, I chanted for this house. I said, girl, give me them prayer beads.
Yeah, well, and our girl, Angelica Ross, she's Buddhist, right?
Yeah, and Tina Turner, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and she does that chant, I think, at the beginning of her podcast. I have a friend in Chicago is actually who used to do that all the time. But yeah, Miss Penetration.
She sounds really inspired so far, Bonnie.
Well, I was excited to hear Sam come into the picture, and like, it sounds like he was older than Sam though at the time, probably a little bit, huh? Because I thought he was like around his early 20s last time. So, but yeah, and then that song, I love that song, The Blind Eye. Is it Blind Eyes or Blind Eye? Yeah, so good. All right, let's get back to this. Here we go.
Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, over and over again. Its intention was to align you with your innate Buddhahood, to cleanse you of any bad karma and put you in alignment with your true destiny on earth, to find peace, to find tranquility. Momoko's mum gifted me with my own set of beads, and I began to chant every morning. Eventually, I joined a group in Brighton after a serendipitous meeting.
Are those prayer beads?
These are mantra beads. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that where you don't you go through like each?
Yes.
You say it with each bead?
Yes, you have to have true intention with each bead as you go through them.
You can't half-ass it?
Huh?
You can't half-ass it?
You can't what, Mama?
You can't half-ass it? You have to be like in it?
You have to be it's like a form of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
I got this set from my friend for my birthday. I got a couple of them, and I did a couple of classes on learning how to make them. They're absolutely amazing to have.
And do you still use them?
I do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, learning more about you every day.
And then some. No.
Tranquility. Momoko's mum gifted me with my own set of beads, and I began to chant every morning. Eventually, I joined a group in Brighton after a serendipitous meeting with an incredibly eccentric, bright, colourful suit-wearing piano tuner. He spotted my beads and he grinned at me and he pulled out his own. We'd sit in a small group and we'd chant for hours sometimes. There was something comforting about trusting the course of my life and illness to an incomprehensible power outside of myself. I spoke openly in these meetings that I loved feeling part of something, but that I really struggled saying with certainty that I believed in it. This was the issue I faced with every religion I temporarily aligned myself with looking for answers. Something in me couldn't bring myself to take ancient texts as gospel, all too aware of how man twists so-called spiritual doctrines to suit his own power-hungry pursuits.
Yeah, right. I mean, I feel like that's a very relatable. Getting into recovery, you know, it's like we kind of get to that desperation of trying spiritual shit, right? And it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know if any of this shit is true, but I get something from being around other people in a similar, like in communion, basically, like in community with one another, all trying to just, we're all showing up to the same place for the same reason, right?
Connected by the same thread.
Yeah. Exactly. And so to me, I feel like that's like in and of itself, that's like divine, right? That's spirituality. That's like having a relationship with that which is beyond us and within us, and that connects us. And so I don't think it necessarily matters what you believe in or how you, like, I don't know how much of that really matters. I think it's really just about being in that moment.
The energy and the thread of connection, vibration. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's the connection, you know, they say the opposite of addiction is connection. So, and I believe that wholeheartedly.
Wholeheartedly.
All right, here we go.
Wholeheartedly.
Religion I temporarily aligned myself with looking for answers. Something in me couldn't bring myself to take ancient texts as gospel, all too aware of how man twists so-called spiritual doctrines to suit his own power-hungry pursuits. I wanted divine proof. I sometimes screamed at the sky or the waves and begged for it. I was answered with sickness. If there was a creator, I was angry with it. The irony was that I envied people of faith. I felt like people who truly trusted themselves to a higher power seemed to possess a level of calm and acceptance that I didn't. One of my stranger encounters was going to see a shaman. The shaman, of course, was a middle-aged white woman in a quite nice-looking cottage in Brighton. She told me to lie down, and she proceeded to lean over my body and made noises like coughing up phlegm while speaking an unknown ancient language that seemed to include whistling noises. After about 20 minutes of making distressed groaning noises over my back, she paused in contemplation for a while and proceeded to tell me that I'd been killed by a sword in my past life. She made sucking noises near the supposed stab site on my chest, and then she spat into a bucket. She then placed a little stone into my hand, and she told me that I had to bury it on a high hill in Brighton on the next full moon. The most depressing part of this story is during the next full moon, I did indeed find a big hill, dug a small hole, and I buried the stone in it. Surprising to say, fuck all happened.
Have you ever done something silly like that?
Fuck all?
Fuck all happened. Like nothing happened.
Nothing happened. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I've done a lot of that, Bonnie. You know, I'm very spiritual. I grew up with a background in, hey, Deanna Girl, I was worried about you. Thanks for joining us. I don't think my hearts are working, Bonnie, with this app. We got to get rid. Oh, look at the Lord. Look at God. So, that's for you, Deanna. So, I also go to a shaman now for wellness, and he does what is called a spiritual bath. A sound bath. And what this is I lay on a table. There is a bowl of water under the table, the massage table, and he does the whole vibrational thing. And there's music in the room, and there's crystals, and he plays the didgeridoo in different vibrations. And the didgeridoo makes me itch for some strange reason. It's something when he does with it. And it's funny because my sister now goes to him and she says the same thing, that she doesn't really like the didgeridoo as well. So that I've done. And then I've done the four corners, where you bury something on four corners, because they say, I think it's six corners, because they say that it's the devil's, and something like that. I forget what it was, but I have buried things in those locations as well. So yes, I have done.
Wow. I didn't realize you were so woo-woo, witchy, crystal.
How you think?
I don't know why I don't know. I just never like took it that far, I guess, you know?
Yeah, some things I just, like I said, I'm very much to keep certain things to myself, so it's not to be passed judgment on, or you know what I mean. But I share a lot with you, Bonnie, when it comes up.
No, totally. Yeah, no, it's cool. There you go.
On the next full moon. The most depressing part of this story is during the next full moon, I did indeed find a big hill, dug a small hole, and I buried the stone in it. Surprising to say, fuck all happened. It was this journey into the spiritual unknown that led me to a very unsettling experience. I located a therapist online who had claimed to overcome ME herself. She specialised in it and dealt with people's past trauma, but also worked with energies like Reiki. I had to get the train to where she lived. She met me in the car and drove me in silence back to hers. There was a bit of an unusual energy about her. I've always been really good at reading people. I can't quite explain it, but sometimes when I meet someone, it's like I have a sixth sense for whether or not they'll play a significant role in my life. This person's energy felt alien to me. When we arrived at her, she told me that she sometimes would consult with her horses about people's health conditions. It was at this moment I knew that she was probably insane. Nonetheless, I shared a lot about my life. We got into the trauma of living with sickness, what it was like to constantly mourn your own life. It was comforting at first, and it felt like a safe space, until it got a bit weird. One day she offered me a glass of water before a Reiki session, and during the session I fell into a deep sleep. When I came around, multiple hours had passed, which was peculiar for me. I usually have issues with sleeping and couldn't drift off, particularly not in unfamiliar environments. She assured me it was total normal and to get plenty of water, and I thought nothing of it. Lines started getting somewhat blurry when she'd invite me for meals with her and her husband. I took it as friendliness, but I noticed that she started messaging me outside of clinic hours. One time I agreed to create music for her in exchange for some extra sessions. Not long after, I started getting strange messages in my Facebook inbox. She started telling me how she knew that all my previous songs had been about her, which they hadn't. When I dismissed this, she would sometimes message me saying that she was outside of my house, telling me that our souls were bonded and that bad things would happen to me if we weren't together. To put it lightly, I was already in a pretty weird emotional place because of years of sickness. So having someone in a position of trust abuse their position like this shook me, and it shook my trust in therapy even more. It shook my trust in people in general. I told her to never contact me again, and I blocked her, but she would still occasionally get through on other numbers. One time she'd phoned my mum's house relentlessly. My mum, knowing the details, told her to stop harassing me and threatened to get the police involved after things which went silent. This was also the year that I met my second ever girlfriend, who I'd later be engaged to for a short amount of time. My little sister had already set the relationship up in her mind. She met this girl in Bristol who she got on with super well, and somehow she wingmanned me and planted the seed in her brain that she'd be perfect for her older brother, me. My sister's friend had moved to Brighton, but I was blissfully unaware of this matchmaking. At this point, I was living in a house share in Rose Hill Terrace in Brighton with some lunatics I'd met at Ben's house, and Momoko had moved down from Cornwall. The house was only meant for 2 people, but Momoko and I had pretended we were married and pretended that we were going to have a baby to be able to get it. As soon as the deed was signed, we moved in with about 5 other friends, one living in the living room, one in the attic, one in the study, one in the conservatory. It's safe to say rent was pretty fucking cheap. One night my friend Luke was throwing a party and she rocked up with a few of her friends. My sister had pretty good taste in girls and I had a crush on her instantly. At some point in the night we both ended up lying on my bedroom floor on a bunch of sofa cushions while about 6 other people were sleeping in various places in my room. One somehow in the upper compartment of my wardrobe. True story. She asked me to tell her a bedtime story, and I made up the most unhinged story I could think of. By some sort of miracle, she found my madness endearing, and
I used to have an uncle that slept in my closet. We had like, me and my boyfriend, we had like this little, we were up like in the upper level of this house that had been converted. So it was like the hall upper level, and you know, it had like a couple of bedrooms and a bathroom and stuff, but I think it had 1 bedroom. And so he wanted to move in there. So there was like this literally little closet. All he could do was put like a little mattress like at the bottom of the closet, and the closet was actually at an angle. So he literally almost had to crawl in there. He lived there for quite a while. Okay.
I was when he was mentioning the woman with the food, I was like, my first thought was baby reindeer. How terrible that turned out for that poor guy. I don't know if a lot of people have ever watched that, But I think if you've ever watched a movie about some kind of a stalker kind of a thing, I recommend you watch Baby Reindeer.
Yeah, it's wild. That is wild.
My room, one somehow in the upper compartment of my wardrobe. True story. She asked me to tell her a bedtime story, and I made up the most unhinged story I could think of. By some sort of miracle, she found my madness endearing, and we ended up kissing a lot and staring into each other's eyes till we fell asleep. It's strange navigating a relationship when you're sick. I couldn't go out to eat at restaurants because I was allergic to everything. I didn't have the energy to do most normal things that couples do. Some days I'd be so full of brain fog that my personality disappeared, and it was hard to explain that to someone without them thinking that maybe you were just being a bit off with them. I think losing Joe, losing Callum, losing the record deal, losing my last girlfriend, it had all made me wary of getting attached to good things. Quite a lot of my illness made me feel ugly, and it's hard to accept love when you feel ugly. Nonetheless, she did love me, and with time our relationship grew. It was around this time I was contacted by a woman called Jennifer Breer, an incredibly inspiring woman whose journey seemed to parallel mine. She was an incredibly ambitious PhD student at Harvard who one day was struck down by a mystery illness that confined her to a wheelchair. She spent most of her life tirelessly searching for a way out. She was doing a Kickstarter to raise money to make a film called Canary in a Coal Mine. It would later go on to be renamed Unrest, and it would go on to win multiple awards, and it's still watchable on Netflix to this day. It's an incredibly important and very moving documentary about the horrors of living with ME. I recommend everyone checks that out. At the time, I started health blogging. I created a series of video diaries that I named Me versus ME. It would be a video document of my various trials with different alternative treatment approaches, and generally a look into the life of someone with a chronic illness. I didn't know it back then, but those videos would save my life. I guess I was occupying a place that was needed, as quite quickly many people in the chronic health communities gravitated towards my videos. Every day, I'd be sent messages telling the stories of the people who had fallen in between the cracks in the floorboards. There was heartbreaking stories. Stories of frustration and confusion. People mourning the people that used to be. Some who were new to this world. Some who had been there for decades. I tried to help them in whatever way I could. I tried to comfort people. In my own little way, I became somewhat of a spokesperson for the voiceless. I felt their pain like it was my own. This new pursuit gave me a sense of purpose that I desperately needed. Without purpose, I felt useless. I made a lot of friends, and I'd write to them on a daily basis. Some of those friends died. Some of those friends decided to take their lives, and they were wicked people. I talked to them a lot. It was this that ultimately made me decide to stop, but that wouldn't be until years later. Immersing myself in the horrors of this illness and trying to carry some of the weight for the others while I still wasn't strong enough to carry my own eventually took its toll. Jen Breer had found my videos and she asked me to make a song for her documentary. I was honoured. I wrote a song called Patience. I'll leave you with a video taken at a time to finish off this chapter.
Wow. Yeah.
Byron!
And I'm excited for this Patience song, I'm assuming now, but yeah, it just takes me back.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
Well, and it's so like you said, like I think it's that weird thing of like putting yourself out there and then people being positively impacted by it, or even just saying me too. It pulls you out of that isolation, and that it just fixes your mind and your perspective a little bit. It may not change a lot, but there's something in that just makes things a little bit more bearable. And also it can be easy to get stuck in being that person and not doing what you need to do for yourself.
Yeah. And I was going to say, he sounds as a very empathic person.
You'd have to be at this point. You know, I think empathy is earned or learned. You know, they say a lot of people with trauma.
I mean, like he can feel their pain and he can sense the end. You know what I mean? So I guess it's kind of empathy and empathic. I don't know if they're really the same, but
I think that's a big part about empathy. But I think once you've had experiences that make you feel so isolated and alone, and you go through difficult things, you're open to the idea that you're just open to so much more.
Yeah.
Like you almost have to, but I think it creates this compassion for other people and what they're going through, because even if it's just, it reminds you of you.
Yeah.
It helps you be more compassionate to them. Even if it feels so foreign or whatever, there's elements of it that feel familiar, I guess. William says, the reason we all gravitate towards REN, we all have a story that each other can relate to. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Look at William still in here. William, last time you left us after your coffee break. I'm so glad you're still here with us.
Right. And Deanna says that she hasn't heard the song yet. She's excited. So let's go ahead and get into this song.
I wish we could see your reaction.
I've learned some lessons that will be so valuable for like, so it's a blessing and a curse being this ill, because it's completely changed me. Like it's turned me from a little cocky teenager into somebody who's quite this, I guess, prepared for things now. Like I feel like once I've gone through this, I'll throw anything at me and it'll be okay. But at the same time, as much as I see it as a blessing, I hate it. I do hate it. I think it was Thomas Edison that was like, I haven't failed, I've just found 1,000 things that don't work, which is kind of nice to look at it that way, like I'm just eliminating things. But it really challenges my mind, and it's just gotten to the point where I'm spending, I'd say, like 95% of my life in a bedroom, which kind of sucks, because my mind is in such a different place in my body. My mind craves life so much.
It's alright, it's okay, I'm feeling brave, gonna face this day. It's okay, it's alright, no tears will kiss my cheeks tonight. And it's all good, and I'm just fine. My words ring out like hollow shells. Just slow down, it takes time, but time moves slow, I know this well. And my heart breaks 1,000 times a day. But for every hope that dies, another one takes its place. Because I have the strength of a mountain, and I've got the courage of the deep blue sea, and I have the heart of a lion, and the stars burn bright inside of me. And although you test me, my God, I stand so proudly. Can't you see that I have the strength of a mountain, and I'll take all you throw at me.
He's just so earnest. You hear it in his voice. Like it's in everything he does.
Yeah, I love this song, and the message is very powerful. I was just thinking when he was saying, when they put his name up, I'm like, the name of the movie was Baby Reindeer. This is Baby Reindeer.
Yeah, that's wild. Go back a little bit. Here we go.
Side of me, and although you test me, my God, I stand so proudly. Can't you see that I have the strength of a mountain, and I'll take all you throw at me. This world is quite scary, I know that, 'cause I've been here for some time. But all that prepares me for a day when I can truly shine. 'Cause I've been so broken, and picking up fragments of myself, I'll glue them back together, so I can stand at the edge of this world and yell that my heart breaks 1,000 times a day. For every hope that dies, another one takes its place. Because I have the strength of a mountain, and I've got the courage of the deep blue sea, and I have the heart of a lion, and the stars burn bright inside of me. And although you test me, my God, I stand so proudly. Can't you see that I have the strength of a mountain, and I'll take all you throw at me.
Dust the cobwebs off this sheath.
He's such a gift.
Yes, and so handsome. And let me tell you, baby, that child, no matter what he's been going through, that hair has always been on point. Okay.
Yeah, his song just it hits you right in the chest, like right in the soul, stirs it, you know.
It's for your little baby, Deanna.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Thank you for joining us.
Hi, daughter. All right.
Very good song. And when I see this, when I think of him in this, these things come to me. Bridgerton, Prince Charming, just so many loving, beautiful elements of this man just exposes himself to me. I love that. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Dust the cobwebs off this sheath.
I need to dust the cobwebs off
I'll
my...
take the sword of my belief, and in this storm I will not flinch, and I will not move, no, not an inch. Because I have the strength of a mountain, I've got the courage of the deep blue sea, and I'll have the heart of a lion, and the stars they burn bright inside of me. But although you test me, my God, I stand so proudly, can't you see? I have the strength of a mountain, and I'll take all you throw at me.
I know I really needed to hear that. I feel lifted just listening to that.
Hi, Kira.
Hi there.
William says hello too.
Yes, from all the way from Australia.
There's a lot of things in that song that really motivate me. You know, I love to hear, or this is my thing lately, that I've been pulling inspiration from the words that people have been saying. And like some of them was, I am unstoppable. I am shifting my mindset to abundance. I am passionate and ambitious. And I'm practicing using these. I'm changing my mind frame. And when he says, I have the strength of a lion, I'm the strength of a mountain, I have the courage of a sea, you know, all of these things are very important for us when we're listening to music. And we have to switch our mindsets, I think, when we're listening to things. Because, honey, let me tell you, some of the stuff out here, honey.
Well, sometimes that's all we can change is our mindset. And so a lot of the times that's the only thing we have power over. And it's not like it's not mind over matter. It doesn't like fix things,
right?
It makes it bearable, which I think is what like God and spirituality and all that shit is. It's more about just helping you get through the things than it is around creating it or getting you out of it.
and then the speaking it into existence again for me. You know what I mean? I think that's very powerful with the device of the music. Bravo on this one.
Yeah, man. Well, and there was the one line where he said hope dies, but that's okay because there's another one coming or something like that. You know? Yeah.
I'll take anything you throw at me. And that was a very powerful line because sometimes, you know, people will throw stuff at you and you keep taking it and you keep taking it. And my sister, God rest her soul, rest in heaven, used to say her favorite line from any movie was, nobody pushes baby in a corner. You know what I mean? From Patrick Swayze.
Dirty Dancing.
So you have a bow and sometimes it breaks. So you can only take so much. And I applaud him and keep finding that hope, you know?
Yeah. Dirty Dancing is my mom's favorite film of all time.
The
first time I ever got into drag when I was 20, I looked like Jennifer Grey before her nose job.
Did you?
From that movie. Yes. William says, gotta love you and leave you everyone. Time to go and fall out of another tree. Don't fall. Hugs to all until we catch up again.
Goodness. I'm curious to know what you're doing out there in them Aussie streets, William. You have to come back and talk a little more.
He's climbing trees.
Out of trees.
Climbing trees. All right. And I don't think that's a euphemism, is it?
I don't know.
Deanna says, yes, Dirty Dancing is my favorite.
We don't know. It could be a saying like, fuck all.
Right? Fuck all.